So let's talk about an emotion that is as universal as it is powerful: anger. Today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating idea of anger as a fire. And, more importantly, we'll look at a practical, ancient toolkit for putting that fire out, a toolkit that, it turns out, modern science is only just beginning to truly understand.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Before we even get to the tools, we really have to understand the nature of this fire. Anger. It's a core human experience, right? It's that reaction we have to what feels like injustice or frustration or some kind of threat. It's a feeling that every single one of us has felt ignite inside.
And you know, sometimes that fire can feel completely all-consuming. This story right here just captures that feeling perfectly. The more you lash out, the more you let the anger out, the bigger the blaze gets, and it just starts consuming everything in its path. It's a really powerful and I think relatable place to start to understand just how destructive this internal fire can be.
Now, what's so interesting is how ancient traditions thought about this feeling. In the Islamic framework, anger, or ghadab, isn't just like fire, it's seen as a literal spark of fire from Satan, who himself was created from fire. And that metaphor is absolutely key. It frames anger as this external, destructive force that you have to actively extinguish.
This repeated advice really highlights just how central anger management is. Think about it. A man asks for the single best piece of counsel, and the one thing he's told 3 times over is, do not become angry. Now, this wasn't a command to just suppress the emotion and pretend it's not there. It was a really powerful instruction to gain control over it before it becomes destructive.
So, if anger is a fire, the next logical question is, how do you put it out? Well, this brings us to what we can basically call a prophetic cooling system, a set of practical, actionable steps designed to de-escalate that internal heat right in the moment.
Let's break this toolkit down. It's made up of 4 clear steps, almost like a spiritual fire drill. First, you seek refuge. Second, you stay silent. Third, you change your posture. And fourth, you perform ablution or wudu. You can see this isn't just about willpower. It's a whole sequence of physical and mental actions working together.
So that first step, isti'adha, is all about a mental reset. By saying, I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan, you're consciously framing the rage not as a part of who you are, but as this external influence. This simple act creates this crucial bit of mental distance from that overwhelming feeling.
Step 2, silence. This one is like an immediate circuit breaker. I mean, think about it. How often are the most damaging things we ever do said in the heat of the moment? The advice to just be silent when you're angry is such a practical tool to stop your tongue from becoming a weapon and causing harm you can't take back. Okay, let's move to the third step, which is all about physically de-escalating your body. If you're standing, a position of action and confrontation, sit down. If you're already sitting, lie down. You're deliberately moving your body from a state of being ready for a fight to a state of calm. And this physical approach actually leads us right to the final tool.
And this brings us to the final and maybe most direct step, literally using water to fight fire. The practice is called wudu, or ablution, and the logic is so simple, but it's also really profound. If anger is an internal fire, then the physical act of putting cool water on your skin is a way to literally and spiritually extinguish those flames.
Okay, now this is where it gets incredibly fascinating for me. These practices, which were established over 1,400 years ago, have these amazing parallels in modern psychology and physiology. So let's take a look at what science has to say about why this ancient cooling system actually works so well.
So in modern terms, when you get angry, you trigger your body's fight or flight response. Your brain's threat detector, the amygdala, just goes into overdrive. It floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate shoots up, your muscles get tense, your whole body is physically preparing for a fight. So check this out. What happens when you do wudu and splash cool water on your face? You're actually stimulating something called the trigeminal nerve. This nerve is a direct line to the part of your nervous system that controls your heart rate and your breathing. Activating it can trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. That's your body's rest and digest mode. And it basically slams the brakes on that fight or flight response. And what about changing your posture? Well, modern science has a term for this. It's called postural biofeedback. By moving from standing to sitting or lying down, you physically lower your center of gravity. That simple move can help decrease your heart rate and blood pressure, and it sends a direct signal back to your brain saying, hey, the threat is passing. It's safe to calm down now. And finally, A huge part of modern anger management is a mental tool called cognitive restructuring. It's the practice of consciously challenging those hot thoughts that fuel your anger, like stopping yourself from thinking, "This is a total disaster," and reframing it as, "Okay, this is frustrating, but I can handle it." And that idea is the last piece of our scientific puzzle.
So now let's put it all together. When you line it all up, you can see this incredible bridge forming between these two worlds, an ancient faith-based framework and modern evidence-based psychology. The alignment is, well, it's pretty remarkable.
Just look at this. The parallels are honestly stunning. The instruction for silence is pretty much what modern psychology calls taking a pause, or the 10-second rule. Changing posture? Well, that's a direct form of postural biofeedback. Using cool water in wudu uses the same principles as cold water immersion therapy to calm your nervous system. And finally, istiada, seeking refuge, is this powerful form of what we now call cognitive distancing. By framing the anger as an external spark, you're separating yourself from the emotion, which is the exact goal of these modern therapies.
So what's the ultimate takeaway here? What do both of these frameworks agree on? It's this fundamental principle. Managing anger isn't about not feeling anger. It's an active, learnable skill. Patience and self-control are muscles. They have to be intentionally developed and trained through consistent practice. And all of this leads us to this powerful new way of looking at what it means to be strong, especially in our modern world. It's really not about physical dominance or winning some fight.
This saying just perfectly captures the essence of everything we've talked about. True strength isn't measured by how you can dominate someone else, but by how you can master your own internal state. It completely redefines power as emotional discipline. And this matters so much right now in 2025 because we live in an age of constant triggers and instant reactions. In this kind of environment, the ultimate strength is what you might call emotional sovereignty. It's the power to create that little bit of space between a trigger and your response, and to choose how you act instead of just being controlled by that initial spark.
So, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. In a world that is constantly pushing us to react instantly, is it possible that the greatest power we can cultivate is simply the ability to pause, to cool down, and to consciously choose our next move?